Well, welcome back. International outrage sparking as horrifying images show hundreds of innocent Ukrainian civilians massacred outside of Kyiv. President Zelensky is accusing the Kremlin of genocide, labeling Putin a war criminal. Joining me right now is California Congressman Khanna. He is a member of the Armed Services, Oversight and Agriculture Committees. Congressman, it's great to see you once again. Thanks very much for joining me this morning.
Maria, thank you. And it's just absolutely horrific and brutal what Putin is doing. These constitute war crimes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is this war crimes? And are you expecting more sanctions against Russia? Should we expect more sanctions?
Absolutely. My understanding is we've gotten sanctions on about 12 of their 100 oligarchs, but there's still 88 oligarchs who have wealth, which we haven't been able to go after. We need to go after that. We need to have more punishing sanctions on Putin. I am co-signing a letter with Representative Andy Kim from New Jersey, bipartisan, to say we've got to get more weapons to Ukraine so they can continue to make this fight.
Congressman, what do you make of using the capital markets levers? I know that, there are tens of millions of American investors that are still holding Russian companies in their portfolio, stocks and bonds of 8 of Russia's largest companies. And by the way, they were already sanctioned back in 2014. Is the administration considering prohibiting Americans from holding any Russian securities right now, in effect allowing investors to continue to fund Russia's war on Ukraine by investing in these companies?
My understanding, Maria, is that FINRA has already regulated a lot of that market and that there is not trade that is allowed in a lot of those securities. But I am for increasing the sanctions to make sure that market is shut down. Now, some people may still hold it because if there's no market, they can't sell it and they may become have no value. But I am for making sure that we're shutting that down, and I think FINRA is already doing a lot of that.
Apparently, it was in a bill, but it was taken out. So those companies are still trading on U.S. exchanges. I just wonder if that's another lever to pull to stop Vladimir Putin and his death and destruction in Ukraine. What else can the U.S. do?
Well, you're absolutely right. We should look into
yeah.
You're absolutely right. If there are any trading on big Russian companies going on, we should punish it and make sure that it goes beyond what FINRA is doing. And I agree that the administration should do that. The main thing, I think, is we've got to keep getting weapons to Ukraine to make this fight. They have been heroic on the battlefield. Russia is withdrawing, though committing huge human rights violations. And then we need to see what Zelensky wants in terms of a resolution and a ceasefire. But the more power that he has in pushing Russia back, the more our sanctions are working, the better the chance of getting a ceasefire.
Congressman, I want to ask you about the green agenda. I know that you agree with the climate change agenda, but there's a lot of uproar over the Securities and Exchange Commission acting more like the EPA than a securities agency with these new rules that they've proposed about disclosing emissions. Your thoughts on the SEC coming out with this for all public companies to follow? And do you have any pause about this climate change agenda being the priority, even as gas prices are where they are, inflation is at a 40-year high, and, of course, you've got adversaries still making billions on oil?
Well, Marie, let me try to propose something that is common sense and hope can get bipartisan support. Short term, we have to increase oil production. There is no doubt. The president has released 180 million barrels. One of the things we can do is buy back the strategic reserve, and we can guarantee a floor price for doing that. That, in my view, would help increase and facilitate short-term production. Long-term, we need the climate agenda, a moonshot on renewable energy, because, Marie, that's how we defeat Russia, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Iran. If you want those countries to lose value, let's move to investing in renewable energy. And I think most people will agree that that's a long-term solution. And that's what the SEC's pricing does. It just says, let's take the long-term risks of carbon holdings into account.
But the president wants to get Iranian oil on the market. I mean, your thoughts on negotiating with killers as opposed to drillers? You've got drillers that want to do business, but there's a moratorium on federal land, and the president killed the XL pipeline, all in the name of this climate change agenda.
Marie, you know, most people know that there's still 9,000 permits that are out there. We can debate whether they can or not. I think the policy that would be pro-driller in the short term is saying if you drill, the federal government will buy back that oil and we will guarantee a floor. The reason that there isn't drilling is
you know that this White House and this entire movement has pretty much bullied the banks to cut off funding. You already have the Blackstone Group saying that they're not going to invest and fund oil and gas exploration. I mean, it's more than just those licenses.
Marie, I know people at Blackstone, they don't get bullied by anyone. I think what has happened is Wall Street has independently made an assessment that this is not a good long-term bet because they see the way the energy markets are going. And that's why the oil companies are engaged in stock buybacks. They're not engaged with their money in more production.
And I know you're going to be questioning them soon. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. Khanna, we'll be right back.